Welcome to the Your Voice Matters Women's Retreat. We are shining a light on self-doubt so that you can stop second-guessing yourself and start speaking your truth. I'm your host, Mitzi McMahon. Joining us today is Jolen Philbrook. Jolen is known as the abundant mindset expert who intuitively clears prosperity blocks. She holds a behavioral therapist degree, is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, and a certified life coach. She survived a rare form of breast cancer and then a year later survived kidney cancer. She shares her wisdom gained through these challenging experiences in order to help others find their inner strength, prosperity, and happiness so that they can live their greatest lives. Welcome, Jolen. It's so great to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So I understand you wrote a book that sort of detailed your story. I was wondering if you'd be willing to share some of that with us.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Let me give you a little back history so you can understand the event a little bit better.
Yes, please.
Okay. So back in the day, I met this man. Of course, we always meet a man, right?
Right.
And so the relationship built, and we started selling jewelry together and traveling, doing arts and crafts shows. And then eventually we got married, bought a house in Northern California, foothills of Lake Tahoe. And I had my son. And I like to say my son learned to walk in Tucson. He learned to swim in Fiji. He learned to snorkel in Belize. His first horseback trip was around his first horseback ride was on the beach in Costa Rica. And the first sailboat trip was around the Greek islands. So we had a lot of fun and we traveled a lot. And every time we're in a different city and we haven't been there before, we'd go sightseeing. And, life has its ups and downs, but overall it was really fun. And then his mother dies about the same time he turns 50. And he went from family man to Hugh Hefner. And of course, that led to our divorce. So then 3 years after our divorce, my son comes back from his house and goes, "Mom, I don't feel safe at Dad's house." And I'm like, "Why, honey? What's going on?" And he said, "I saw Dad snort a white powder and he's taking alcohol into the car." So I didn't know what to do. So I went to the Boy Scout leader, who happened to be captain of police of our small little town, and he sent me to family law, and that started the custody suit. And around the same time of the custody suit, I found out I had this rare type of breast cancer called Paget's disease, and I had to have a mastectomy, chemo, and then a year later, kidney cancer, all with no income, in fighting the Wicked Witch of the West. So in my book, I type it, it's off the Wizard of Oz. And he was just like a volcano that would explode. And he would manipulate and lie and do all this stuff. And I was always doubting myself. I was really super insecure. I was afraid to leave the house. And eventually I quit going to court. The whole custody thing turned into a trial. I mean, it was like a living nightmare for 3 years. And my favorite thing to do is to cry myself to sleep and then wake up and rehash the court thing and get all angry and just, I was miserable, just so unhappy. And then I remember this one night, it was a turning point. And I said, I'm not going to cry anymore. And then as I sat there in the dark night, I'm like, if you're not going to cry, what are you going to do? And I'm like, what do you want? And I couldn't come up with anything except happiness. I wanted to be happy because I was so depressed. It was terrible. So I cut out a picture of a woman's face, and she was smiling and bubbling and so happy. She had white pearls on and a pink blouse. And I put her in the picture frame in my kitchen counter. And I said, that's the new me. And every time I walked by her, I say, that's the new me. And then I started putting affirmations all over my cabinets. And then my friends would come over to visit, and they'd wouldn't talk to me. They go, hi, walk into the kitchen, and they'd start at the cabinet, read the outside, open it up, read the inside, go to the next one, and they'd go all the way around the kitchen. Half an hour later, they were ready to talk to me. My kitchen was full of affirmations. And that's how I started to transform my life. I stopped talking about anything negative. I wouldn't talk about the court case, cancer, nothing. It was like, this is where I'm going. My goal is to be happy. So that's
Wow, there is so much to unpack in that story. Oh my gosh. First of all, the image of your friends coming over and making the rounds in your kitchen is really amazing. Um, so in this period of time, it was just sounds immensely stressful. Walk us through a little bit about how the self-doubt, did it keep you spiraling? Did it keep you, how did you manage that in that time?
the self-doubt really, it just it kept me, the best way I can think about it is it's a spiral. My brain's going 30 miles an hour, and I'm having a hard time coming to one section. So self-doubt just took me in a tailspin. So if I was in doubt, it led into the insecurity, which led into lack of confidence, not worthy, not deserving, not good enough. And it was like this stair step that just kept taking me down. And I didn't have any confidence in my abilities. It was just really a tailspin, and the depression on top of it, that feeds to it. So not only is your mind taking you down, but your emotions are just, you're putting you in a tailspin is bottom line.
Yeah, and I can imagine it's such a stark contrast from how you described your life before. Did you experience any self-doubt or second guessing before all of this happened to you?
Yes, I had a lot of self-doubt. And there's this little story. When I was married, the college opened up in our little town, and I wanted to take the watercolor class. And he said, my husband at the time said, what are you going to do? You're taking a watercolor class. You're going to set up a booth next to mine and sell your paintings. You're not any good. And I took that on as truth. It wasn't, so I had really low self-esteem. I wouldn't stand up for myself. I didn't know it till after I was divorced, but he was narcissistic and he could manipulate things. So I was always wrong. And I'm like, yeah, but that wasn't how it went down. But I wouldn't speak up for myself either.
Right. That I think that happens to a lot of us, where we take on someone else's version of truth. We take that on as our truth. So in this process, you mentioned a little bit, one of the tricks that you did was cut off that picture. What were some of the other tricks or tips? How did you start, other than that moment when you woke up in the night and you said, I'm not going to cry anymore? What were there some other strategies that you used to begin to pull yourself out of the self-doubt, to stop second guessing yourself?
Okay, so first I had to come into awareness, because my mind was just so negative. And so when I came into awareness, I'm like, oh, I'm thinking negative. I'm focusing on more of whatever. And so I came up with this. How do I get this to, I'll turn off this light. Nope. Anyhow, there it says stop. It's a little stop sign. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this little stop sign up here on the top, anyhow, I'll just talk about it. Up at the top, it says awareness. And then I have the stop sign, and then it says pause and roll. So I would pay attention to my thoughts. And then I would know, oh, that was negative. I'm in self-criticism. I'm insecure. I'm doubting myself. I'm not trusting myself. And so then I would go, okay, I stop that. I'm pausing and interrupting the pattern. And then it's like either I was triggered by something or I was thinking of something negative to bring up all this stuff. So then I would go, what do I want instead? And I would roll it into the positive, like, oh, I'm full of doubt. I want confidence. I want to feel brave. So then I had this technique I used that I learned in hypnotherapy school. Is it okay if I share it with the audience?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
please.
So this technique has really helped me so much in building my confidence. It worked on doubt, insecurity, second guessing yourself. So in hypnotherapy school, somebody stood behind you and they put their fingers on the wing of your back, but we're live online. You can't, nobody's here. So we're going to take our three fingers, or these three, and pinch them together. So you think of a moment when you felt really confident. You were in your power, you're strong, you're confident. And then you put your three fingers together and you take a step forward with your right foot. And you say, I'm confident, I'm confident, I'm confident. Now, if you're in fear, you go, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. If you're in doubt, it's like, I trust myself, I trust my intuition, I trust the universe, something to do with trust, right? So you can use this technique for anything. So you want to do it about 3 times. So you get the feeling, get it build up, like turn up a knob, and you go, I'm confident, I'm confident, I'm confident. Okay, I feel confident. Pinch, walk forward, and then say, I'm confident, I'm confident, I'm confident. So there was a time when I did not feel very good with my inner power, my strength, who I was. So I came up with this Wonder Woman, and it's like, you have more power than you think. And I love this swirl of energy right here in the frame, because to me, energy comes out of our hands. If you do Reiki, you're moving energy. And it's just like, I can move my energy. I can trust my power. So I put this, of course, on the wall in my kitchen. I stand there and look at it and I go, I'm strong in my power. I'm strong in my power. I'm strong in my power. And then I feel the strength and I'd step forward with my right foot. And then I would do it 3 times. You want to do it 3 times in a row, because that tells your brain you're encoding new information. And then the body remembers it too.
Gosh,
So,
I just love everything about that. It is so amazing. Let me back up. So when you first talked about that little card you had with the word stop, I love that as a tool to use to disrupt that line of thinking. But you also said something really important. Awareness is key. It is so important. And I think sometimes we find ourselves in these cycles where there's no space for the awareness to drop in, right? So I love having those reminders to stop. In your case, the one you use to stop, and like a forced pause. I love that. That's brilliant. And I love your Wonder Woman little thing. That's, it's like a mini vision board, right? Where you can create them and put them around. Wow, that's just fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing those.
Yeah, I have one on exercise too. And of course, I was really happy because I want to be happy when I exercise.
Right. So writing your book, was that cathartic for you?
Well, what's interesting, when I got this opportunity to speak, I had to go back through my book again. And as you can tell, I use my book a lot. It's all marked up. And I found a phrase in here as I was rereading some of my insights that I thought would be fun to share, because it's still valuable today. And I'm like, wow, I wrote this? Yeah. So it says, believe everything's going to be okay, even though there's no evidence.
Mm.
And so what I did, and a recent story is I had a tenant in my house, rental house, for a year that didn't pay rent. And I made a little card. Evidently, these cards don't show up.
Yeah.
It says, I trust myself and I trust the process. And this is all about trusting it's going to turn out okay, and not focus on, oh, there's no money, there's no rent, focus on it's going to be okay. I'm going to come out of this. If I survived cancer, I can get through this. And in that time, I got out my book, I read, oh yeah, I forgot about this. And I started reusing my tools.
A little reminder from the universe, right?
Yeah. And I have a friend every Monday we chat and she goes, have you read your book lately? And I'm like, no. And she goes, you better get it out and reread it.
So what was the gift of this experience for you?
Oh, at the time, I did not understand it until it was all said and done. But as a child, I was really intuitive and not knowing I was intuitive. So for an example, my dad said, go pick up the peaches at the bottom of the peach tree because, they fall off and the bees are there and it's making a mess. And I'm like, no, I get stung by the bees. And he's like, go pick them up. I'm like, okay. So I go out there. I don't know how old I am. Let's say 6, 7, 8. And there's this beautiful peach tree full of peaches. And I'm this little kid and I go, peach tree, stop dropping peaches. I keep getting stung by the bees. And the peach tree goes, well, I'm just doing my job. Go talk to the bees. So I'm down there yelling at the bees, stop stinging me. I have to pick up these peaches. And the bees go, you're stealing our food. Well, just fly off and get away and out, and they're like, no, they didn't move. They weren't listening. I'm stealing their food. And so I stood there asking, how do I talk to these bees? And I'm, somehow intuition, I get this idea, send them a picture of where the peaches are going to go, which is the humus pile. Hummus we eat, humus is trash. So throw it in the humus pile. So the minute I visualized that, all at the same time, the bees got up and flew off. And I could pick up the peaches with ease.
Wow.
Yeah. But people say, oh, that's not real. I don't believe you. Oh, you didn't see that lady. She doesn't have great energy. That's not true. A gnome didn't walk through your bedroom door. You're exaggerating again. And I'm like, okay. So now I have doubt in my abilities to be intuitive. And nobody knew I was intuitive, did they? Just thought I was strange. And so I shut it off. I turn it off.
Mm.
So the blessing of the cancer actually was the chemo, because I was really sick and had nothing to do but be with myself. So one day after lunch, I'm putting the dish in the sink, and I look out the window at this beautiful oak tree, and I go, I wonder if I can go into that oak tree. And I go zip into the oak tree and come back out. And it was pretty quick. The oak tree didn't like me going inside it. Now it's summertime, it's 100 degrees out, and on the branch is this little squirrel, and his little feet are hanging down, dangling, and it's really hot. He's not doing anything. And so I'm like, oh, let's try the squirrel. So I go, zip, and I look inside the squirrel, and I'm in there quite a while, just looking around, and the squirrel didn't mind. I pop back out, and my mom happened to be there, and she goes, I wondered when you were going to come back. You were standing there for an hour looking out the window. And I said, really? It felt like 5 minutes. So what I learned was how to go in and help people in their body. So when I was teaching a class on chakras, this lady kept saying, oh, something's wrong with my throat chakra. I said, really? Let me look. Open your mouth. And I go in, I do something, don't I? I didn't do it, spirit, right? Angels, whatever. And out I come, and she goes, oh my God, I've had that ever since I was a kid, and it's gone. And then there was a man in 4 of my manifesting classes that I could remember. He might have been my 5th. Anyhow, he finally got to this point where he could open up and tell me he's a real estate agent. He hasn't had any listings or sales or anything for 2 years. And I saw a little block in his stomach, and I just kind of went in through the stomach. This time I didn't have to go in. So I pop in and I clear this block, and he got $1 million listing the next week. And then when he came back to class, it sold the following week. But the one that shocked me the most, I don't do relationship. I'm not good. I shouldn't say that. Cancel. I am choosing not to do relationship because it's not my expertise. But I worked with this woman on a relationship. She was with this person for 6 years. And for 2 years, they lived separately. She was in San Francisco and he was in Sunnyvale, an hour away. And she just always looked a little gray and down, is how I saw her, kind of frumpy. And then this woman, I talked to her, and I don't remember working with her. I just remember a conversation. And then the next class, she comes back, and I'm like, oh, we have a new student. I'm Jolen. What's your name? And everybody in the class laughed, and they said, Jolen, she's been here the whole time. Her name is whatever. And I said, really? I don't recognize you, because I saw this gray, frumpy person, and now she's bright like a light bulb, and she lost 10 years off her face, and she's just glowing brightly. And it was so weird, because it was the difference. It taught me the difference in the energy, when they're depressed to when they're happy. So it was just really quite interesting. And I can go on, but
Oh, I just love that. I love how your intuitive gifts show up for you. I love that you bloop, pop right in and pop right out. I just love that. I love that the oak tree didn't appreciate that.
yeah,
Oh
don't do
my
pretty.
gosh. Oh my gosh. What an amazing what an amazing gift you have. And I'm so glad that you were able to allow it to come back for you, right? So as you've tapped into these gifts, has your self-doubt dissipated?
Oh no. It's gotten worse, let me tell you. Oh, this is a funny little story. I'll make it short. I was at a networking event, and I met a woman that channeled, and I'm like, oh my God, channeling, that's like so much fun. I want to channel. And in the cancer episode, I did a lot of reading. I read every book on angels from Doreen Virtue, and I was talking to them and crying to them, and I had angel cards, right? So I was really heavy into angels. And so then I'm driving across the Bay Bridge in San Francisco, and I'm like, okay, that woman channels, Hicks channels Abraham, Doreen channels angels. Who do I channel? And I see a picture of an angel face. I'm like, yeah, I know Doreen channels angels. And I go through the list again, and I see this angel face. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Go away. And then finally it dawned on me, I channel angels, but I didn't trust my ability, and I didn't trust what I was seeing, because I kept pushing it aside. No, that's not true. That's Doreen. She channels angels, not me. And so it just really, now I have learned, this is what I've learned. If I get something, and I did not know the difference between my voice and my intuition. They sound the same in my head. And this might be the same for other people. So I get this hit, go to the grocery store, and come back and I go, no, I want to exercise, take a shower, do a Facebook post, then I'll go to the grocery store. and I hear, go to the grocery store. I'm like, no, I really want to do this other stuff. So who's talking? Intuition is saying, go to the grocery store. Who's arguing?
You.
Yeah. So I have learned if I start to argue with myself, I like pay attention. You're arguing. Oh, yeah. Okay. Go to the grocery store. So because it's a Friday sale or whatever it was, they were running out of what I wanted to buy. And so if I went later or another time frame, they would have been out. Now, the secret is when I went to pay for what I wanted at the grocery store, I used a credit card, but in the change holder was a penny. And the angel said, oh, thank you for listening. I always find a penny, and that tells me, oh, that's a message from the angels. Good job, you listen, something to that effect.
Oh, that's awesome. And really, so true. And I love your vulnerability and sharing that you still experience doubt and it's still a work in progress, right? We're always growing and evolving. And it comes back to that awareness for me. That feels just really key when we have the ability to just be aware instead of going on autopilot, just stop and pause. And like you, when you recognize you're arguing with yourself, that's your cue to hold on, take a second here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much. You have a gift that you'd like to share with our audience. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. This is really a fun one. And it's interactive. So it's called Raise Your Confidence and Kick Self-Doubt to the Curb. And so what it is first you work on this little piece of paper and you think about your doubts, worries, fears, concerns, insecurities, unworthiness, whatever, right? And then you go through this little meditation where you're at the beach and there's this beautiful bonfire and you take all this stuff out of your body and you throw it into the fire and it burns it all up. And then we download new coding of confidence, value, worthiness, strength, power, all this great stuff that we need. So if you're in, it helps you speak your truth because you can finally have the confidence to say what you need to say and trust your intuition, follow those nudges, So it's just a fun little meditation that would help anybody that's in doubt, worry, fear, insecurity.
It sounds awesome. Thank you so much. So for those watching, be sure to click the link below to pick Jolene's gift up, that little meditation. Do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, one thing when I was, I did 12 fears that stop you from manifesting. And what I learned is when we are in fear, worry, doubt, any of that stuff, let's call it your ego mind is running wild. And so you really are focusing on the wrong direction. And your mind's taught to think negative. It's a survival mechanism. Back in the day, if you touched a hot stove, you'd get burnt, so you'd know not to do it again. So we learn through pain. So today, we want to focus on positive. And so the question I always ask myself is when I'm worried, I'm doubting myself, I go, okay, what is it I really want? What does my soul want? And I get into my soul. And if my soul knew the answer, what would it do? What action would I take towards that thing I'm doubting myself on? And it's a quick little exercise to get you back into movement, because I don't know about you, but when I'm in doubt, I procrastinate, I'm in resistance, I'm not doing it, and I'm doing everything except what I'm supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then I'm like, okay, if I was my soul that was already had this project done, how would I feel? Who would I be? step into that, and then move forward.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story, your tips and tricks, and sharing you with us. It's been a real delight having you here.
Well, thank you. It has been a lot of fun.
So for those tuning in, be sure to click the link below for Jolen's meditation, and be sure to tune back in for the rest of our Your Voice Matters retreat. Thanks for joining us today.